We are Greg and Leah, the host of Evolve, the #1 podcast about relationships, and not just the tender or toxic romantic ones, but all kinds of relationships with many people, places, and paths.
We aren't here because we know or understand it all, simply because we are working to evolve and asking others to join the evolution.
So join us in this next episode of Evolve!
One. And we're rolling. Live. Well, it's not going to be live, but welcome to another episode of Evolve with
Greg
and Leah. My muscles look really big on the video here.
God. You're such.
That's going to be distracting. So what's this episode about? I did hit record here. Good, we're ready to go.
Have you ever been irritated by a family member?
Never. Like, I'm pretty.
Have you ever been irritated by a coworker?
Never.
Have you ever been irritated by traffic?
You?
Or yeah. Or have you ever been taken advantage of? Why are you laughing?
I don't know.
God.
I can see how hard you're working to try to come up with a question.
Well, I was thinking of the word, like wrongfully, been, like...
Molested? I don't know.
Maybe molested. That could be it, too.
Yes,
So,
all the above.
All the above,
yes,
right?
to all of the above. Why?
So, because I happened to get this book today.
A new book, Rick?
Yeah. I don't read much books, but as you all know, but Marcus Aurelius' Meditations.
Woo!
Yeah.
Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
And so, like...
You've already read that far in the book already?
No,
or you're just like
a
skipping?
reference from... Actually, my study this week is take a much broader perspective out of the
Handbook
for the Stoics, which is... In a previous episode, we talked about me reading this book starting... actually, it's been 7 weeks. So,
I can't believe he's still consistent here and working on this.
But I wanted to read this. This is one of his meditations. And he writes kind of like you write.
Oh, no. What does that mean?
No. I mean, he writes to himself. It's like where you have a...
Does he say I, me, you, we, they?
He says you.
Okay, so go ahead.
So you can strip away many unnecessary troubles which lie wholly in your own judgment, and you will immediately make large and wide room for yourself. You're laughing at the way I'm reading.
No, I'm not.
So I want you to read this because
Okay.
I know last week this is like the 17th take, but she hates the way I read.
And I don't hate the way you read.
I want you to read.
That's not the truth.
This
is not a library book, right? So we can write in it.
I bought this book. Well, actually, my son bought this book for me.
Happy Father's Day.
Yeah. Read right to...
Just this whole paragraph right here.
Right to there.
Okay, so I'm
Stop
going to
there.
read... I'm about to sneeze, too. I'm going to read from the Meditations from Marcus Aurelius. And... Sorry.
Good God.
Yeah, okay. You can strip away many unnecessary troubles which lie wholly in your own judgment, and you will immediately make large and wide room for yourself by grasping the whole universe in your thought.
It goes on to say, and this would help me, about something that had just recently come up about, irritating and just ongoing. Have you ever just got irritated with this one particular item and you just can't get past it, or know somebody that maybe somebody that has, and they just can't get.
I know somebody who has.
They just can't get over it, and it's like, all right, would you stop with the issue already? I'm sick of hearing it. I'm sick of saying it. But why can't I get out of this rut or this cycle? And
you found yourself in this position recently.
I did.
Okay.
And so then this really helped because it says to broaden your perspective. So in other words, okay, so. In this one instance, they compared this woman who had been cheated by a car mechanic. But if you take her instance and compared it to, say, at the time, this guy Marcus Aurelius, who was the emperor of Rome or Greece, or I don't know, and that's pretty bad. I don't know.
That's all right. We're not here for history.
Yeah. And he had a war going on, he had a conspiracy against him, and all these other things. So his troubles are way out of perspective, larger than the girls with the mechanic and had the little...
Well, that's what I would take away from this. When you're asking me to broaden my perspective, then I'm asking...
Take a look from the...
Get a little bit... You could not even necessarily zoom out in that sense, but this kind of relates to... we went to garden meditation last week. I was starting to feel kind of like, oh, wow, I'm really kind of bummed about some things. And that is very like, you're only thinking and looking at your own life and self. And when we did the meditation, I sat like on the garden floor, on the garden ground. And like, there's this whole universe down there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I think that this life is all about me when really there's so much. Like, broaden your perspective that way. That's how I kind of, and taking what you're saying with what little bit of information I have so far of this book and what you've shared and like the takeaways that is really the point of it.
At the time of this irritation that I had, I was just over and over, and I actually took a meditation I went up Ridge Road into the Garden of the Gods, way up in it. It's pretty high, and you can see the perspective of, from your perspective, you can see all the way to Kansas, I think, in some places. There's that.
Maybe, yeah, definitely from the incline,
so it surely makes your troubles and your life feel small.
Right.
And when you also know that I'm not the only person who has this situation occurring to me, and it's not happening to me, and like he said, is you can strip away many unnecessary troubles which lie wholly in your own judgment.
Yeah, how you are perceiving things. What's your story here? And you're kind of stuck in your story.
Now, does it change the problem?
No, definitely not.
And it just changes your way of looking at and carrying this energy that is destructive for yourself, and it kind of just.
So how is this principle? This is only day 1 of week 7, right? Like you just started?
Yeah, I haven't even done the first day of it.
So my question would be, do you already kind of have an idea, or is it already helping the situation you felt you were stuck in?
Yes.
How?
Well, one is I'm not the only person who's got family member problems. Tons of people.
We could do many episodes on family member problems.
You don't have any family member problems, right?
No, I don't think so.
So how I'm thinking how this could help you as well.
Thank you. That's what we're always doing, is learning so we can tell someone else how to fix things.
That's what it seems like.
Screw fixing it ourselves.
Seems like that's what's been the story of my life.
Me fixing you?
Yeah, right. Anyway.
That's why you look so nice today.
I do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so in your evolution process in the past, tell me how you would have handled this, like ruminating, stewing, and then how are you handling it now?
These are, and some of these cycles can be small, where they happen every day, or they can be large, where it comes around again,
every once in a while.
And you think you're dealing with it, but all you do is suppress it. This, I'm hoping, can, one, change my whole energy on what I'm thinking, and realize that, well, in the instance of the story, the girl has a mechanic who cheated her, and the suggested outcomes, she kept carrying on day after day after day, week after week,
and like complaining about
it, and can't get it past her that this guy ripped her off, and so and we all been there. I mean, I remember when I was going through a divorce, I couldn't get past all the things that my ex was doing, and it was like, God, this girl had so much real estate in my head,
right,
that
which is very common for breakups and relationships,
and it is, but it's other instances too. Your boss, your coworkers, your immediate family, you know. Yeah. So, taking a perspective that you're not the only person, and there are bigger problems that or it doesn't make the problem go away. But in this instance, she could actually write a review if she needed to get that energy out. And then she's going to still have to get the car fixed.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't stop the problem. So she has to go find another mechanic.
Well, I like the way that I've heard it mentioned before, is when you're spending all this, you're exerting a ton of energy in this negative, like, narrative, I'll just say, that when we stop that, we can bring that energy back to us and put it somewhere more useful. Well, for sure.
There was one thing where
You keep talking. I'm going to grab a tissue.
Stoics believe that negative energies or passions or negative emotions are unhealthy because they grab hold of your attention and your ability to reason. So when you're in this state of chaos in your brain, you have no ability to reason. And
Actually, if you'll also look up another thing, maybe you could look it up as well. Sorry, I got to blow my nose.
Editing in process. Ding dong dong ding.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah.
But something that you can look up that's really helpful as well is stoplight brain. and like which red, yellow, green, which zone are you in? Because when you're in certain zones, you can't make logical decisions.
Right.
So that's a really good research tool to look into too,
I
and
know
start
when-
recognizing in and of yourself, like, am I in the red zone? Am I in the yellow zone? Am I in the green zone? And when you know where you're at, you also know what kind of decisions or what kind of topic, what kind of relationship, where you can actually like make decisions from.
Continuing with this, is practicing it, so negative emotions or passions are unhealthy because they grab hold of your attention and ability to reason, practically forcing you to focus on a perceived problem, which this narrow view, the problem will seem much larger than it actually is.
Well, when you're saying the narrow view, like the narrow view is I'm only thinking about myself and my problem right now.
And then that energy happens how many times, and I know it goes over, well, she did it again, or he did it again, or it happens, she'll go to the next mechanic and get the same result because it's that energy already there.
Well, I recently used the wordage of like your message is your magnet.
Right.
So like whatever you just keep saying and saying and saying and saying, it's just you're going to keep bringing that back to you.
So broadening your perspective or bringing yourself much bigger than the problem. Actually, in some of the meditations I've done in the past with Joe Dispenza,
yeah.
That's his technique, in my opinion. I don't know if I'm even. It seems to be with him, he brings you to a place way beyond your little tiny self and brings you to the perspective, and then you can create at that point. What is your new reality? What do you really want to happen? And when you're at that perspective, you can see things that are small and move them around in your life, and it's kind of cool. This way is just a kind of coming at it from the other, that he's approaching it from a positive and healing and things like in that nature. This is a perspective that would be taking care of unnegative or unnecessary passions or negativity that you're dealing with.
So go back to, I don't think you answered my question before, like, how have you handled this kind of a situation you're talking about in the past? What has been the unserving behaviors you've
several
done
programming
in
the past would be to fight back immediately, just try to justify your actions,
like, so be defensive, go on the offense,
or make it look like that person is they're irritating me for a reason. And I've gotten to this point because I've had a new programming that I have tried to administer a while back, where if I've noticed someone's irritating me, then there must be something in me that I need to look at first, because I should be living a peaceful Zen. I should be Zen Greg.
Every day,
all day.
Every day I worry all
Oh
day.
God.
And I'm waiting.
Don't.
If you have not ever seen Bad Lip Readers, they're hilarious.
Bad Lip Readers. Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But that's off the point. So in the past, you have handled things more like getting defensive.
That's one way, and then there's
like spending way too much time venting, maybe another, like where I just tell everybody this happened and I'm going to keep talking about it.
Or you go to somebody else and dump your shit on them.
That's what I'm saying. You're just venting at other people. So every time you're venting, you're also taking all that energy again. You're like resurrecting a problem all the time. I used to say,
you're bringing around your dead cat, asking somebody to pet it. It's like, here's my dead cat, and you're like, would you just bury that dead cat because it's dead. It stinks. No one wants to hear about it
anymore. For other people, it does. It's true.
And even you don't even realize, hey, I'm carrying around a dead cat. And I mean, I've been that when I pet my kitty. It is crazy what we do, and it's just so much wasted energy. And
that's something that I feel like I've really had an awakening to. Somebody, I can't remember, it was on a meditation maybe or something like that they were talking about that, of when we're sending all this energy of venting and complaining and negativity, like all of it is going out of us, and it really truly can drain us emotionally, physically, mentally, that as soon as you stop that, shutting off the leak, so to speak, like we had a leak here that I guess the city owns the pipe and everyone's kind of deciding who wants to be in charge, but water, is it still going? Like, it might actually still be draining out. And I'm just like, oh my God, the wasted water in America is crazy because no one wants to decide
who
it is. But I'm saying, like, it just takes a quick, easy fix, and all of that, you're no longer sending out wasted water. But we can also be like the city, though. This does connect. I'm not really that far out. We could be like that and be like, you know what? It's her fault that I'm having a bad day. It's his fault that I just can't ever get anywhere. It's their fault that they, like you said, the example of the mechanic. Well, they never should have done that. It's true. It is unjust. It is unfair. It's not right. It's illegal in many ways of just all of it. But you can spend all that time. That's just blaming. That's the same as the city of like, it's not my pipe, it's your pipe. It's not our pipe, it's your pipe. It's wasting too much time of deciding who's at fault here, and you're just letting all this waste go out that's really resourceful. Like, you want to save that. You want to maintain your own energy and life, which water is life. I mean, we are letting way too much go out. So in the past, you said you would have like vented, you would have held it in, you would have been like, you know what, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm not going to worry about it. But then another issue comes up and all it does is stack on top of these.
With family members or even sometimes coworkers, what has happened is you try to compress it into something or push it away and pretend it doesn't exist.
Just like, you know what, I'm just going to forget about that.
Or you only... stay away from that topic ever and always. You never try to do anything, but
sometimes that's because both parties don't know how and what to do, and that's where, like, I think the whole point of Evolve is we're trying to figure out, like, how do we use the proper strategies to have better relationships with everything from our pets to food to money to family to coworkers. How do we have better relationships here? Because this whole concept of what you're saying of like, let's just put it over here and pretend this doesn't bother us, actually doesn't work, because it's still sitting there and you're just stacking new problems on top of this. And before you know it, it's kind of like how you would say years ago, like, you've swept it under the rug too much, and now you got this big mountain in the middle of the living room because no one's ever wanted to address anything, because no one knows how to address things properly to be able to move forward.
But
so
sometimes things just don't need to be addressed. But moving forward takes a cooperation.
Correct. It takes both parties willing to meet at a place to go forward from there.
And that is a lot of energy to rebuild something sometimes. It really is.
Well, and something I think I shared with you recently, like, I was feeling like really bad about something in my past and consulted, I go to my journal and just was really meditating on it and talking to, like, myself and just getting insight from my own wisdom of, should I go back to people in my past and start making apologies for my bad behaviors, my bad choices, and how far back do I go? I know that I think Alcoholics Anonymous, like, I thought part of their 12 steps is that you rectify, relationships that your alcoholism has destroyed.
Heard that. I don't know.
I think that's part of them. Yeah, I don't know. Neither of us have been in AA, but I believe that was something I've heard, and that was kind of my thought. Oh, should I go back and try to fix and apologize for all these things? And what I felt that came to me was fix. It's always good to repair what relationships are active right now. If you're talking about having to go dig up a relationship that hasn't really been anything for years, or like that there isn't a two-way, like you just used the cooperation word, I believe you said, like, it takes both of you. It takes two people kind of meeting at one space to move forward from there. That if I'm standing here, but there's no one in this relationship circle that I'm like, hey, I want to fix things with that person, I got to go drag them into this circle and be like, hey, do you want to come over here so we can maybe, like, work on our relationship? And if I have to use that energy to go grab and find you to bring you to my space, I want to consider or reconsider, I would say, like, do I want to spend that energy? Well, if you're way out there and you're not already in a relationship with me, I think it's important to, like, ask forgiveness or, wherever need be, apologize wherever need be with the people that you have relationships with. But I don't know if you need to go back and dig up or try to manufacture a relationship that no longer exists because maybe it crumbled apart, maybe it never had legs to stand on in the beginning. Like, if you're trying to go scrounge those up and fix them, I don't know if that's the right way to use your energy. At least that's where I am right now.
Well, you're saying that you're putting a boundary up around being guarded about the relationships that, like, there's this instance I know of this person has called you, and it's just to dump on you, and it's not really a relationship.
I've had a few people in my life be that way.
establishing those boundaries for yourself, so that way, I forgot where we were at.
Well, I mean, if someone's just calling, and I in the coaching classes that I'm part of as well, that something that we've talked about is that boundary is there for yourself, so that way you have self-worth and self-respect for yourself as well. Like, if I'm just always letting everybody use me as a trash heap, I don't really respect my time. I don't respect my own energy. And how much of it I'm letting other people, like, leech off of me. Because there is a lot of people in our society that they will, if they find that you're a good listener and you will let them dump, they will just suck and suck and suck off of you. And that's not helpful energy at all.
There was something that I read earlier that I wanted to bring.
Looking.
Maybe it wasn't that important.
You should have underlined it when you were reading the book.
I underlined it. It's true.
So what do you want to do forward then? Like, what do you think, and what is the homework for this week's? Do you even have an idea yet of what this is asking of you? Besides broadening your perspective, what to do section, it says right there.
Right.
So what does it say? This week's we'll be practicing taking the view from above.
In two ways, in daily living and in night with formal meditation. There are two view vantage points which you can practice this technique. The vastness of time. So visualize aspects of history and prehistory backwards in time. Consider two, as Marcus did, the expansion and ultimate dissolution of the universe. And that's one of the things I was saying about Joe's Dispenza's meditation. At least for me, when I'm being in that guided meditation, I can feel from my center of my brain, this outwardly goes into the vast universe, and like I said, it makes everything feel small. It's very unimportant.
Right.
And from that perspective, you go to a blank slate then, because now you can almost make everything disappear to the point where now you can bring it into a new reality of how you want it.
It's funny because I had like a little tiny bug. I was laying in bed yesterday because I've not been feeling that great and taking the rest space that I need, but like this little tiny bug was around, and I was like, instinctually, like, we just want to crush it, but I was like, as long as it's not a flea and something that's gonna, cause real issues here, I was like, let me just try to get it on my finger, and I'll try to get it outside. But like, I kept messing him up wherever he would not get on my finger, so I had to actually pick him up. But I thought, oh my gosh, he's so small. But then I thought, well, like in the Men in Black episode where, remember, he's like, how are all these in the locker? And he's like, what? Let me show you this. Boom. And then we're in a world, and there's things bigger than us observing us. And I think taking either a micro, which is small, or a macro point of view of realizing, like, oh wow, like I did in the garden meditation the other week, was just sitting down and being, oh my god, there's a whole universe down here. Look at all these little bugs and like things that are operating and coexisting together. And I don't have anything to do with their world, really. But yet I do at the same time. We're all here together. But also you can zoom out, like you're saying, and look at things, go to the top of a really big mountain over here and see the things that are like, wow, everything looks so small from up high. So micro your point of view or macro it down. Either way, it's taking the point of view off yourself.
Well, one thing...
And like me, and everything's bothering me.
It takes the energy, like you said, off that problem or the perceived problem.
Yeah.
And now you have energy to place on solving rather than complaining.
Yeah.
And figuring out a way to move forward.
Well, and that goes back to Tony Robbins, where we really got a lot from his, like, the story, the stance, and the strategy.
Right. Make a new story.
Just create a new story. And sometimes you can't create a new story till you change your stance, which we were talking about this, where, like, the Wonder Woman pose or the Superman pose.
Right.
How this actually
produces testosterone.
Raises your testosterone 20-something% just by standing in that position of a Superman's Wonder Woman position. It raises your testosterone 20% and lowers the cortisol hormone, which is a stress hormone, 25%. So if you just need to literally, when you're in a venting situation, when you're in a place that's all about me and I'm the victim, literally get up and change your point of view, change your space, where you're standing, how you're standing, or like you were saying, get up go on to the top of the mountain, or
find
sit down
what
and
is your mountain.
Go somewhere and change your stance, change how you're sitting, how you're looking at things, so you can change the figurative how you're looking at things as well.
Batman goes up high, Spider-Man goes.
I'm not a superhero fan. Sorry, I don't like any of the superheroes. But,
Moses went on top of the mountain.
Don't care. So to wrap up, or to put a nice little bow tie ending on the end of this here, what do you want to take away and give others to think about?
Well, it doesn't remedy the problem. Going away and doing the meditation or making the perspective.
Listen, neither does venting and just complaining.
And that's what I was about to say.
Neither resolves the problem.
What it does is gives you reason to manage that problem. Where when you're out of control and like I said before, sometimes you don't even know you're carrying around this cat. And I'm glad that I've had friends that have been around me to give me a spiritual slap in the face to say, hey, you got a cat that stinks and you need to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And I hope that there's, like you have done that many times with me, but that's I think that's the takeaway, is that the problem doesn't go away. The solution to the problem is
more accessible,
easier to figure out.
Yeah.
And you don't have to take down.
But again, because you've changed your stance, so you've I'm going to change my perspective, broaden it. I'm going to micro it, macro it. I'm going to look outside myself.
Find out what you're actually in control of.
Yes, and then you can change your story too. And then now I can come up with a new strategy.
Right.
Because all those others have been fixed. So stance, story, strategy, I just feel like was a huge breakthrough. It does fit with this as well, of just what do we do with all this energy? Because let's not lie, like, it creates a lot of energy when you feel like you've been slighted by somebody, unjustly wounded in some way. Like, it creates this, like, for me, it's like a tension in the chest that comes up that I almost feel like my head's gonna pop at times.
Well,
it is a lot of physical energy.
You asked me what I would have done. What are some things, because that's from my perspective. I would have had a temper tantrum, whatever. You're a little different. How would you have handled it?
I was more passive aggressive.
You want to know the truth and who did it and why and get to the bottom of it.
I could be aggressive and passive at the same time, like, so passive aggressive, but also sometimes I was a little too direct. I can definitely say, like, I've ruined a lot of relationships because I needed that. Like, let's just talk about it. Let's get clarity. Let's dig to the bottom of this, because, like, I think I've shared in other episodes too. Like, I like to go deep, hard, fast. Like, I don't like living in the shallows.
What I was looking for is because that your intention, I believe, on all those accounts was always reconciliation. It was never to
correct, and I think that's where, like,
it was everybody else would put anybody else, including myself, puts up a defense. Well, why are you accusing me? And if you're the same way as me, it becomes I'm going to be stubborn and put up a wall. My question would be, where is the reconciliation? What that I was looking for in here is that thing I read to you earlier about reconciliation. You do everything when both parties want to reconcile.
Right.
And you were talking about that earlier with building a relationship. If it has to be on. I remember a friend of ours said, when there was a situation between two people, when you can find the island of
like compromise,
where you both agree.
Mm-hmm.
There's where you start to build your island, on those areas of agreement, not on the areas of disagreement. You kind of stay when the relationship is trying to mend. If they're both parties are willing.
Yeah, and I think that's, again, you have to articulate what you want in a relationship in that sense. And that's where I was going back to what I was saying about, sitting with myself and journaling through, like, hey, did I go back in time and apologize and try to rectify things? My intention is, like you just said, reconciliation with people. But what they might feel is, why are you bringing that dead cat?
Right. You're bringing.
And I'm like, well, I wasn't trying to bring a dead cat. I was actually just trying to, like, say, like, hey, I apologize that if my part in this, let's go forward from here. But not everybody's on the same page.
Well,
and I think you're also going to have to be okay at times when there isn't a reconciliation that's available. When one or more parties just does say, like, there is nothing you could do that will make me happy with you. Like, nothing. Then you already know. Like, then we have no island we can stand on here.
Right.
But how do you know what anyone wants or expects without having communication?
That's something that you and I talked early on in our relationship.
Yeah, I will say that's the one saving grace that we've had a lot in our relationship is communication. In good and bad
good
times.
and bad. Yeah,
good and bad communication. Sometimes it comes out wrong.
Yeah.
But I think somewhere down the line, eventually one of us or both of us reconciles and says, hey, this is what I was trying to do. This is what I was trying to say. I'm sorry it came out wrong.
And sometimes just saying the truth. No, I was trying to hurt you back because I felt
sometimes being honest is just as therapeutic. Not sometimes. Being honest just is therapeutic. But with that said, is there any other things you wanted to encourage, support, take away, inspire others with?
Not today. Nope. That's all. That's all I got.
All right. Well, so our book recs, actually his book recs, because I don't have any on this topic at the moment.
Well, my book recs are
his too.
Meditations of Marcus Aurelius.
Yep.
And
that was a new one he just
Handbook
got.
of New Stoics. And if you ever check out Joe Dispenza, I mean, he leads meditations, and I think our camera just went off. But
whoops, that's okay.
So
that's okay.
There
we go.
Time to end this.
Time to end the session.
So
and
like, subscribe, comment, and be evolving, people.
Yeah, be evolving.